finally a return to growth, albeit small, only 0.1%, but frankly, investors probably are pleased. What's driving that growth?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks for having me. With the FX impacts, those were slightly smaller. I expected about 60 basis points versus about 100. Divested businesses were in line with the expectations of around 200 basis points. But really, when you look beneath and kind of dig a little deeper, Cloud and Cognitive was towards the higher end of expectations of around 9%. High single-digit growth was expected, but surprisingly, transaction process platforms actually grew, even bumping up against some tough comps from the year prior. On top of that, you did have the Z15 mainframe ramp, which actually grew about 16% as a whole with the segment itself, and IBM's Z, which is the mainframe, grew about 60% too.
And David, I want to dive down into the different sectors of the business. But first, as you look forward to 2020, do you believe the promises of a sustained return to revenue growth and margin expansion?
So I think a lot of it comes down to a stronger dollar. And when you kind of look at this on a constant currency basis, if those currency headwinds do abate in the second half, especially with some of the contribution that you're getting from Red Hat, which on a normalized basis is growing mid-20s as of this quarter, and it's accelerating, scaling through some of their own services segments, which is about 60% of the revenue. So that right there is probably the key component to revenue growth on a constant currency and continual basis into 2020.
I want to talk more about that cloud revenue growth. Where do they stand relative to competitors? You mentioned they purchased the Red Hat acquisition in around 2018. They spent $34 billion on it. Where does that now position them among the other competitors in this hybrid cloud strategy?
You know, I think this puts them more in a middle layer opportunity, especially when you're considering linking towards some of their consulting divisions with GBS or Global Business Services. It definitely does not put them, face to face with some of the other bigger competitors in the space when you mentioned Google or Amazon, but more so that niche play and some of the workflows that actually can be scaled through to their services, which is a value add and hopefully drives growth and margin expansion for 2020.